What is up, guys? Curtis with Northern Garage here, back at it with another video on the FC RX-7 build. Now, a couple of things have changed since the last video. One, as you may notice right behind me, there's a motor in the car now. I did record that episode. Some things went wrong with the footage, some of it got corrupt. Wasn't able to make a good episode out of it, so I'm just clipping a link right now of me dropping the engine in. And then we also got the power steering bracket done. Also tackled that one. Again, footage issue, ended up being corrupt, couldn't make a good episode out of it. Give you guys a little highlight of that, but this video here, we're actually going to be building lines for the battery relocation of the passenger bin. So take you into the car and I'll show you what we're doing and where we're moving the battery from and then to. So as you can see, we got the power steering pump mounted nice and low. This factory bracket, actually, the top half would have been up in this location with your power steering, and then the bottom half, where the power steering now is where air conditioning condenser would have been. So we're able to reuse the one hole for the stud back there. We just had to enlarge it to, I believe, a 1/2 inch. And then we drilled a new hole here. You just got to make sure while you're modifying this bracket, you can pay very close attention that these pulleys are lined up perfectly, because obviously we're running from this pulley here to the front one on the eccentric shaft. There's a bit of a gap down here with the stud, so I'm gonna have to machine a bushing just to space it out. That'll fit nice, and then that way when I tighten this nut down here, it doesn't pull it in. And then there's a bit of a ridge on the back side of this stud here on the bracket. It's kind of spaced out a bit. Ground that down so it pulled it in closer, and then that way we got more meat on those threads there. So this is your power steering pump relocation. You can obviously see how much room there is now for top mount intercooler to come through and then down. Only other thing is this high pressure line, obviously a bit long, a bit of a funky loop in it. We'll have to take this to a shop that can cut it down and crimp on a new end. And then the factory low pressure output here to the cooler in the front. The hard line comes up here and then does kind of a funky loop into there. I had to take it off. It's actually right there. I'll end up cutting it off over here and then just running a small rubber tube to connect them. I believe that was a mounting bolt for there. So cut it off right after mounting bolt, run a small tube, and then yeah, that is your power steering pump relocation. But what we're working on today is battery relocation. So factory batteries sat in a tray right in this corner. This wiring harness wasn't in the way. This goes up to fuse panel. And this one came somewhere else, but factory battery sat here. I'm running a front mount. That isn't gonna work. So what we're gonna be doing is we're actually gonna be running a battery cable from here. Probably either meet it at the fuse block there, or I'll have a terminal right on this shock tower, or maybe even on the firewall. I'm thinking more so shock tower because it'll be out of the way. It'll hide, kind of be hidden with the intercooler and piping, and it's pretty busy up on the firewall there. So run a cable from here all the way through the firewall. We might poke it through the speedometer cable right there, or we might use that pass-through terminal I have over there. From there we'll dive down. Along the inside, we'll peel this carpet back. We'll run it along the inside here. There's a little cardboard kind of holder in there for all the other wires. Run it through there. And then across the back, there is a member down in there that we can run it through into the passenger storage compartment. Back here on the passenger side, we're gonna be placing the battery in the storage bin. I already took the lid off of it. There used to be a 6 CD changer in here, so this is all cabling I gotta remove. It runs up the passenger side, but we're gonna cut out this insulation, sound out, and place the battery right down in here, and then chassis ground it. So we'll do a lug terminal somewhere in the floor pan here for it, and then I'm thinking with the positive cable, we'll actually route it through this brace here to get it over to the driver's side to run it up the door panel there. I'm gonna run it nice here. I know I could just run it loose across the top. Nobody'd ever see it, but I don't know if I'm always gonna keep full interior in this car, so it's better to make it nice now than have to redo it later. So with doing this battery location in the back compartment, there are a few things you're gonna need. You're gonna need, obviously we got here, our cable. I got 30 feet of 2 gauge. Actually, welding cable is the cheapest. It's easiest to route. It's bendable. We're gonna be lots of 3/8 lugs. We're gonna be soldering on 6 at least. And the other thing is a waterproof breaker. So this one's a 150 amp. So how it's gonna go is we're gonna have our battery. Positive, negative terminals. That's gonna be back in the storage compartment. So negative, we're gonna run a cable and we're just gonna ground it right to chassis in the storage compartment. Positive, we're gonna run along that storage thing, up the passenger or driver's side door panel, through the firewall, and then up to a lug. We can then run one, obviously one goes back to starter, one goes to alternator, and the other one goes up to the fuse block. But this right here, we want it right off the battery within, I think, about 18 inches as standard. So right about here, put the breaker. That'll still be in that passenger panel. Having one within driver's reach is nice in the passenger compartment. This is how we're gonna be wiring up our battery relocation. Obviously with this pass through the firewall right here, we could also use, depending on space, use this terminal. We'll just clean things up instead of just the cable running through. You obviously drill yourself a 1-inch hole as it appears, cinch this down, and then terminate on both sides so you got a real nice clean look at that. What we'll do is we'll start pulling up some of the interior and then figuring out where we can route it, because obviously this is our first big run. We'll start with that one. There's a short cable, that won't be bad. And there will just be soldering on these ends. Well, it is well underway. We got the positive feed coming into the engine bay right here. Brought it in through this is your chassis wiring harness down in this corner. So just slit a small hole in there and brought it in through there. And then got it ran loosely through, you can see. It actually comes up in this corner and then we'll come down, obviously beside the dead pedal there, through here. And then I gotta pull this section yet. Obviously I don't want to pull it yet because I do have to solder on a terminal to it, which is actually what I'm about to do now on the engine bay side. So I'm gonna have obviously this half here, hold it and solder on a 5/16 2-gauge lug. The new switch, so I'm actually gonna do a second fuse block. I'm gonna place it down here so it's well out of the way. This way the power from battery can come in nice and discreet down here. And there's a good spot for it to split back to starter back there, one up to alternator and then one up to fuse block. Took me quite some time to figure out a location for that. Also had one of these I was thinking of running, but it's just so big and bulky, and I got front mount stuff coming through here, so I also have the pipe coming through. It curves and goes down, so I need to make sure I have lots of clearance for it. So this second fuse block in the engine bay down there, best location I can think of. So that's what we're gonna go with. Let's solder a lug on the end of that and then drill some holes and get that fuse mounted. To be honest with you, there's a lot better ways to do this, like in a vise. But you know, obviously I already pulled the cable because I like working without thinking, apparently at times. So we're gonna solder it in a real funky way, get this terminal on. And of course I didn't have any red heat shrink that fit just right. I only have black, but there's only one cable coming into the engine bay, so I'm not too concerned. I'll make sure I get some red for in the passenger compartment where they hook to the battery. That way it's easily identified, but I'm gonna loosely hold this torch in my legs and see how this goes. So wait till it changes color. Oh, we're already dripping solder on my legs. It's hot up there then. Yeah, I can see that changed colors, so got some good heat on the terminal. That's gonna be the only part that's tricky is getting enough solder in here and then plunging it fast enough that it doesn't get it all over myself. All things considered, I think that went pretty well. Just give that a minute to cool. And then pull our heat shrink up. Obviously, make sure it's nice and cool before we pull our heat shrink down so it doesn't prematurely start shrinking when we're not ready for it yet. But that right there is what I've found to be the best way to solder lugs on or terminals. I know there's a few different ways. I know a lot of guys, insert the wire, heat it all uniformed, and then do soldering. That probably is the best way because that way you're not doing cold solder or cold copper off your line into the terminal, but I've had good results doing it this way. Well, it's just warm, it's not hot anymore, so pull this right down. And just like that, we have our one side done. So heat shrink nice and close. Always like coming up nice and close. This way, only where it's contacting, your distribution block, or in our case, the fuse there, or the breaker. It's only contacting where that bolt would be, and there isn't chance for something else to hit it in arc or ground out the system. We don't want that, so this is pretty well perfect. I just got to route it down through all of this stuff in there, but I can also worry about that once the fuse block is in. I can tuck it in there real nice. I did make sure to give myself an inch or two extra just in case I needed it. Can always tuck it kind of an S-curve in here. I would just hate to not have enough. All right, so we got the new circuit breaker located down here. We also have the ends terminated at it, so I have the battery feed coming in, power going out. I have one going down to starter. Obviously one comes over here to alternator, and the other one comes up, tucked nice and behind up to this fuse panel. At the same time, I actually redid my charging harness, cut out the battery cables and then redid that. So that's this cable back in here. Obviously, it does starter and then back transmission comes up. We got a couple sensors it plugs into. And then it also feeds up into, actually no, does it feed up into? No, I don't believe it does. But yeah, redid a few things there with that, just tidied up. Got it ran for the most part through the car. Obviously you got to pull out interior, so yeah. Running through past the dead pedal, everything fit in there nice. You can see we transition from here down into the cross member and then across and then out. Everything in here is covered, so it won't have any rub spots anywhere. Right now I'm just currently working on the battery tray, so I'll show you guys that. So here we have the new battery tray. I've already mounted my second circuit breaker there, but it actually fits right like a glove in here. I got a screw down in here, but that's how it fits. And then obviously has a strap coming up over, battery goes there. One line will go here, second line from positive, call it positive, and then I'll just ground it to this plug right here. You pull it out and it's actually, already has like a riv nut in it from factory. Must have been body mount for something. But I'll use this for my negative right off the battery, so that'll work great. But yeah, really nice mount, LRB speeds. I've used them a few times before. It is absolutely beautiful. It's a shame it will be getting 100% hidden because obviously I am putting the interior back in the car, but yeah, I'll quickly get this mounted, throw the interior back in, and show you guys what it looks like when I'm done. Well, and just like that, the battery relocation is done. So I do got to cut these rods down shorter just so this lid actually closes. I got to push this rod back a little bit because obviously these wing nuts, I'm contacting the side of the bin here. So I'm happy to finally have gotten this one done. I know this video took a long time to come out. Honestly, I was waiting for quite some time for that battery box. So hope you guys enjoyed it. That's how you relocate a battery in an RX-7 any year. It's all gonna be the same jazz. Obviously LRB there. I'm not getting paid by them. I'm not getting sponsored. I wish I was. They have a lot of cool stuff. Maybe we'll get some more products from them in the future, but made that install really nice. I wouldn't have been able to fabricate something myself that looked that nice. Tune in the next videos. I got some really cool parts going on the car here. So I got a front mount intercooler we're doing on this car. I test fitted the other week and I had fitment issues with the one pipe coming off the throttle body. So it was contacting master cylinder. So I got some pretty cool stuff I'm really excited to install here. That'll be the next video. So stay frosty, guys.